welcome all to this edition of Autonomy Quest. Tonight, we will be joined by Ed Underwood. Ed is the founder of Touchstone Learning Solutions. His mission is to create spaces where students can develop personalized learning profiles based on Touchstone's unique approach and master the trivium to achieve lasting success in both school and life. Ed is here to share how he's bringing the trivium to life for young learners, a piece that's been missing from public education for hundreds of years. After I interview Ed, we will open up the room for a Q&A session. So I politely ask everybody to remain on mute until that time. And so we will answer your questions about our experiences in autonomy. Also, by the end, there will be a few gifts for everybody here presented in the chat section of this meeting. I would like to thank everybody for being in attendance. And at this time, I want to say hello, especially to Ed Underwood. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Autonomy Quest. Ed, how are you this evening?
Hello, James. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for that wonderful intro, man. I appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for asking.
Good. Good. It's good to see everybody on here too, all my classmates and all of that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's exciting that the new season of Autonomy kicks off tonight, and that's season 12. So we're getting well into the double digits now, and that's a wonderful thing to see.
I was thinking the other day, I was thinking that I think it's a true claim that you could say that every season is the best season of Autonomy, because I would say season 11 would probably be the best, but I imagine it's only been improving and growing since season 1. So, every season you can just say it's the best. So that's exciting.
Yes. So during Autonomy Quest, we like to talk with graduates who have come out of the course and have really had the course impact their life and their motivations to be an entrepreneur or be able to better themselves in some way. And just to kick things off, I think this will be a good way to kick things off. I would just like to have everybody get to know you by asking you about your life before autonomy and what your dreams were that led you to autonomy.
Okay. My life before autonomy, well, we could think about it in phases, perhaps. So, say within the last 3 years of before autonomy, I was owner of a convenience store, and I had went through the whole process of acquiring the store and arranging my credit, meeting with the banks, meeting with lawyers, and going through all the bureaucracy of making this transfer of my store. And through all the roadblocks that I was getting put in front of me, I learned so much through that experience. And that was just making me more excited about and more enthused about getting the project done, is because I knew it made sense. And all these people was telling me that they couldn't be done, or it wasn't a good area. But once I make up my mind to something, that's it's pretty much a wrap. So I ended up pushing through, and after a year, I I finally acquired the store, and the store became mine. So, and then a week later, my son was going through some tough times, and he had came down to the store, and we were talking, and things got escalated, and we ended up wrestling around, and we tumbled off the stoop, and the way I turned, I ended up breaking my leg in half. And so that was immediately, everything got switched in a heartbeat. So now I'm on my way to the hospital, and I'm getting rushed to the hospital. And I spent about a month in the hospital and about another 3 months uh, in the bed with pins in my leg and rehab and all of that stuff. And I had somebody else, the former owner was running the store for me during this terrible time. Thank goodness. And but he was doing it in ways that I wouldn't have done it, and especially as a new owner, I wouldn't have done things. And there was some stuff that was going on that I wasn't aware of. And as time went by, I ended up being able to move around and start having some influence at the store and started moving things around. And that was during the time of COVID, and COVID hit right after that. And so then things really got tight. And after a while, the store, it just started costing me more money to keep it open. So I shut it down and I went and did some other business ventures. I started doing some business development for this person I knew. And in the meantime, I was working on my own business, which is Touchstone Learning Solutions. And so I was gathering knowledge and understanding, doing other things. And so when I moved back to Pennsylvania, that was doing the business development in Arizona. I moved back to Pennsylvania and started doing some entrepreneurial things. Started meeting with people. I ended up renting my store out to some family members of mine, and I was doing business development for them, and they were doing pretty good. Uh, but at the end of the day, things didn't work out, and so I just shut the store down. And around that time, I got introduced to autonomy. And I said, well, I was doing these things and I was aware of autonomy before that, but I had put the marketing that autonomy was doing, I put it on the back burner because I was involved in other things. And then when these scenarios played out, then autonomy came back up in my timeline. And then I clicked it and then I jumped right in. So that's about the time frame that things was going on before autonomy.
Well, what year was it when you first discovered autonomy before putting it on the back burner?
It had to be about around 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, about that time. I think when they was first started, when the autonomy seasons first started, I would see emails and I would remember. I think I remember seeing some Grand Theft World advertisements, but like I
Cool.
said, excuse me, I was into other stuff. So
Now I'm curious, how did those emails end up in your inbox?
because I was on the mailing list and I was following Richard for a long time before that. Before that, I told him that I was introduced to his work when he was working on a project called the Eighth Estate. And he kind of jumped back. He was like, whoa, that's like way back in the day. And I said, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And and so that's how I was on the email list for autonomy.
Oh, very nice. And just about what was it that perked your ears up when you were hearing about autonomy that made it stand out and said then made you say to yourself, that sounds like it's for me?
Well, I'll tell you what, James, when I was running that store, oh my goodness. I was at that store from sun up to sundown, closed to open, doing this, doing that, going to get the goods and all of this stuff. And I was like, if I gotta step out of this into anything remotely like this, then I'm gonna go crazy. But autonomy was saying stuff like, you know, control your own destiny, be autonomous, control your time, be in control of your time and your efforts and who you who you want to who you like to do business with, who you like to be in relationships with. And I was all about that before. And because actually before I got involved into the venture with the convenience store, I was working on this project before. And I had actually put this project to the side. And so when I went through all of that, the time frame that I just told you, and then autonomy came back up, it was like a no-brainer that now's the time to do what I had set out to do before going through all that experience with the store and all of that. So yeah.
Excellent. I feel like a lot of people find themselves, you know, kind of wading through the muck and the mire, and they're like, "Oh, autonomy, like that sounds like it's for me." I think a lot of people would probably relate to you on that. I know I do.
I was thinking about that earlier, and I was thinking about these questions you might ask or whatever, because it's the law of attraction in effect, because you attract what you are. And so if you're going through the muck, that's because you're going through the muck. And on the other side of that is where you want to be.
Hmm.
And everything that's stopping you from controlling your own destiny and being what you want to be, and you know, everything wants to take your time and your energy, but to be able to control it yourself is something powerful, especially these days. That's what you're looking for when you're going through the muck. Because trust me, like you, I've been through the muck, my man. Trust me.
And the great thing about the autonomy course is that it kind of provides like that lighthouse at the end there that's kind of guiding you out, you know, it's guiding you to shore and trying to help you find
Yeah,
a better way for yourself, you know.
absolutely, absolutely. Because if you really been through the muck, then you've tried this and you tried that, you tried this, you tried that. But when you hear something like the autonomy pitch, it's like I said, it's kind of a no-brainer. But when you say that, you're really using your brain. It's just like automatic, makes sense. So you just go to what makes sense.
Now I can't help myself but think about your inspiration to start the touchstone learning program that you've created, and I wonder if you could give us a little bit of insight into. You said that that was a project that also got put on the back burner for a while. So I'm hoping you can give some insight into like what was on your mind while you created that. What was the inspiration behind that?
Wow. Okay. All right. So now 1997 or so, around that time frame, it's kind of fuzzy now as it stretches back. But I was home from college because I had some financial aid issues, and and out of high school, I went to college, and I went to college under what they called a learning center program. And the LC, it was LC 101. And that was for students who had, if you had decent grade point average and low SAT, you could get accepted. Or if you had high SAT and not so good grade point average, then you could get accepted in the program. And you go into the program and they would like tutor you and give you guidance through your first years until you get established. So I'm a young country boy from rural Pennsylvania, first time away from home, basically, and with no guidance. And it comes to find out that my supposed guidance counselor was fired. Well, I never saw him. He was fired for inappropriately touching my classmates. And it was like 2 semesters before I talked to a counselor, and my grades was all in the trash. And I talked to a counselor, got on track, got my grades up. Then my parents split up, and my financial aid got messed up. And so when I went back to school, they was like, you could come back this semester, but you got to pay for this semester and last semester today. And so I said, thank you very much. And then I turned around and I went back home and I started working. And I was working a couple jobs, Foot Locker, selling shoes and stuff. And, that was corny. No, it is what it is. And it is what you make it at the same time. And I didn't like what it was. So I decided to make it something different. And so I started coaching, coaching football and interacting with the youth. And one day, I ended up getting a job. A lot of people around my way, they would say that if you got a job working at the mill, you were set. And so I knew some people, and I ended up working at the mill. And I hated every second of that job. I am definitely not a mill rat. So I worked there for a while, and while I was working there, I was coaching football. And one day I said to myself, man, listen, I never expected my life to be like this. Uh, High school left me shorted. College was a whirlwind. And then here I was working at the mill, you know, and coaching football. But I was tired. I remember that day I was tired staying on the football field. And I was like, these kids don't even know how to play football because I was a football star. And I got recruited to go to play college football at college, but it just wasn't in my cards. A whole bunch of stuff happened, but so now I'm looking at these young children. I'm like, where did you get this style from? Who taught you this stuff? So I was good at teaching the children and made connections with them like that, and so that led me because a lot of my players wasn't able to play because they was always academically ineligible or they was always in trouble with some type of behavior stuff. So I'm like, what in the world is going on in the school that these children is having so much trouble? So I went into the school as a coach and I was talking. I was waiting at the locker room. I said, you got this grade, go back to your teacher and get some extra credit so you could bring these grades up or see whatever you got to do to get these grades up because that's how I was raised. If I wasn't allowed to bring bad grades home and without an explanation. And the explanation had to be good or else it was going to be bad news for me. So I'm telling these young kids, you got to get yourself right. So they was getting roadblocked too. The teacher was like, there's nothing we could do. So then I would go to the teachers. All of this led me to become a counselor in the school. And then as a counselor in the school, I was working directly with the children for counseling agency. And then it just so happens that one of my clients was a student and a friend of mine who was his first year teaching. So I'm in the back of the classroom seeing all the nonsense that's going on in the back of the classroom, and my friend in the front of the classroom trying his best to do what he could do. And somehow, some way, he talked me into becoming a teacher. So, so I I said, okay, I went and took my credits that I had from college the first round and turned them over. And then I went back and I got a degree in Spanish education. I went to Mexico, taught and did student teaching in Mexico. I had an awesome tour of Teotihuacan with this anthropologist who ran the language school where I was at. And it was an amazing experience. And I learned so much about teaching and myself during all that time. And so when I came back, I started teaching. And I started teaching in North Carolina. And I was having a great time my first year, except for all the Common Core stuff that I had to do. I'm telling you, James, there was times when I would just close the curtain and close the door and have the students sit down and be like, look, man, we're going to be in here for 180 days. We have to try to get along. And these is life lessons that you're going to have to know. But then I turn around and somebody come up in their classroom and like, you don't have such and such standards written on the board. And I'm like, these children are so far away from those standards that you're talking about. And then the things like that started happening over and over again. So I'm starting to feel the pressure of what I asked for, what I was telling you earlier. Like, this is not me helping the children like I wanted to. And you wouldn't believe, man, the system has a way of figuring out who's in the system and not going along with it. Because I was definitely in there to sabotage and figure out what was going on. And so I was hosting talent shows. I started a basketball team, and we was traveling throughout the city. I had parents and teachers and gathered up, and we was doing all kind of great stuff. And one day the little boy came in the classroom and he was crying the blues about some stuff that didn't even matter. And so I grabbed his bubble coat. I said, man, come on, man, get your stuff together and put your stuff in the cubby hole and get over there and get to work. Oh, this is what he said. Why is my seat moved and her seat still in the same place? Now, her seat was a star student. His seat was the main cut up. That's why. But he didn't recognize that. So get your cubby. So he goes, instead of going to gym class, this character peels off and goes into the office and tells the principal in front of the office that Mr. Underwood has snatched him up. So when I get back to the classroom, she's knocking on the door like, Mr. Underwood, you can't put your hands on the kids. I was like, what? I was like, I just shook him up a little bit. And she said, well, he told me in front of the whole office, so now I have to call the police. I was like, well, whatever. It is what it is. Do what you got to do. And so when I went down to the office, it reminded me of high school because I used to get called down to the office all the time in high school too. And so I get down there and the officer turns around, he looks at me. He was like, man, how did I know it was you? I was like, I know, man. They out to get me. Help me. So he was like, did you cuss at the dude? I said, I might have said a swear word, but I wasn't out of control or nothing. He said, I'm not going to write this up. So that's strike one, my first year teaching. The next time I got a death threat because one of my students' parents was attracted to me and her son was failing. And by the time the progress reports came out and then the grades came out, then she's making a big fuss in the office saying that I inappropriately touched her son. So I go down there to the office again, and it's a whole nother thing. And they like, Mr. Underwood, we already talked to the child. He said nothing like that happened. His mom was just in the office, belligerent and all this other stuff. Okay, so that's strike two, my first year teaching. Then toward the end of the year, now this is when I was saying I hosted the talent show, and everybody knew Mr. Underwood. I'm walking down the hall, giving high fives to all the students, and I'm loving up on the kids. And I go in the office, and the vice principal says, Mr. Underwood, one of your students' parents came in on a separate issue, and they made it a point to tell me that you are preparing their daughter very well for the real world. I said, thank you very much. That's good to know. And I turned around and was doing my paperwork at the desk. And a parent came in and looked at me up and down like I was real short and said, ooh, you Mr. Underwood, I heard about you. I would never want my daughter in your class. And I turned around, looked at the vice principal. I was like, that's why I don't get too hyped up when people say this, because then you have people like this. That was strike 2.5. Then strike three was the principal came to me and said, Mr. Underwood, I have to interview for your position as a teacher because you didn't send your teaching certificate in from Pennsylvania to North Carolina. I said, hold on. I went and got my paperwork and showed them that I sent the paperwork with the money order. They lost my teaching certificate. They said that I could come back next year as a teacher's assistant. And that was strike three. And I said, you know what? That's it. If I stick around in this one more year, it's going to be very, very bad for me. All of this stuff is telling me to get out, get out, get out. So I left, And that's when I said I went moved back to Pennsylvania and I started tutoring and I started substitute teaching. And I was doing that so that I could go around and connect and collect intel on what these students need, on what they weren't getting from the school system, which is what I never got, which is, you know, so much. But if if you're going to be in the school system, you need something to help you move through it. And the students don't have that. That's why so many students get lost, like I was when I was figured out I was working at the mill. And I turned around and I was like, this is not where I expected to be in life. But my background, the way I was raised, I was taught to figure stuff out. Like I said, it is what it is, but it is what you make it at the same time. And if you don't like what it is, then you gotta make it something different. And I wasn't never allowed to sit down and be a victim or something like that because, you know, life doesn't care about that stuff. Life doesn't care if you lost, and it's also it's just gonna keep going. And you could either, I'm not like I said, I'm not that type of person that I don't like people. I don't like situations to dictate, my decisions and stuff like that. So I decided to make a move, and I ended up in autonomy, and I came out with this product.
So Touchstone Learning Solutions focuses in on the trivium method of, well, truth discovery. I want to ask, and I hope this question can blend in nicely to the open room Q&A session, but I want to ask you, from the time that you left teaching in the facilities uh, until you, like, what was the discovery process for you like with discovering the trivium method itself?
Okay, so I was around that time where I was that first year teaching. That was about the time that I was into peace revolution, tragedy and hope, and I was aware of the trivium, and um, so hold on a second. So what's your question again?
I'm wondering how much time passed, if it applies, if there was like a
Oh,
time, hold on, if the how much time passed between leaving teaching and basically discovering the
okay.
trivium method.
Okay, so that's a good question because that's important. Like I said, at that time when I was getting pinched out of the system, I was coming into that information from tragedy and hope. And then that's when I was able to use that information in my tutoring service and my tutoring business to help students like that. So then I started getting some understanding of how to apply it and how to use it in teaching. And then even ended up teaching general education courses, GED classes for the Career Center in my neighborhood down the block. And that program was failing. And I got into the position and I ended up getting volunteers uh, to meet different people at different sites around the city. And that was a big thing. And I had a system. I was getting people moving through the system. It was kind of stagnant, but people was coming to the system, getting pre-test, and then I would go straight to what they needed through the trivium. And they was able to use that and then take the test and then move on. And I was getting a lot of good feedback from that. But then the program got bought out by another company or another community college, and then they said they couldn't pay me that money anymore. So back to my own businesses, and then that's how I started applying the trivium from the time I left the school, where I was introduced to it, until I come up with this solution.
Ed, it's been a pleasure having a one-on-one talk with you, man. I really excited for your work in the future. And Touchstone Learning Solutions is definitely something that I personally am very interested in, and I would very much love to be able to come on board as somebody that takes advantage of your services that you're providing. So thank you again for being here, and I want to make sure that everyone in the room has a chance to share some time with you, and I'd like to open up the room for the open floor Q&A session.
All right, let's do it.
So if anybody has a question, don't be shy, come off mute and ask away.
Yeah, first of all don't know what the word trivium refers to. So could you tell us something about what trivium is?
Okay, well, welcome to the call, Barry. The trivium method is it's a systematic method of critical thinking. And this method of critical thinking is the component that was removed from the school system when they started introducing rote lessons about rote memory and standardized tests and things like that. The trivium is the first three phases of the classical the seven liberal arts. I don't know if are you aware of those? The seven
Logic,
liberal arts.
logic, language, and I don't know what the third one is.
Say
Latin,
again.
Latin, logic, and
Oh, you're
and
close. Grammar, logic, and rhetoric. You were right
okay.
there. You're right there. I use the terms knowledge, understanding, and wisdom because who doesn't need that? Knowledge and understanding is useful in the real world. That
Sure.
just makes it's like a layup. It goes right with it.
Spent about
So
50 years working on knowledge, so I understand that.
all right, so excuse me. That's when I was introduced to the trivium, like you said, knowledge knowledge is everywhere. I mean, you could gather knowledge and you could sort that. Now you could go through the trivium like straight ahead and keep plowing through until you be able to come up with wisdom or with the output that you're satisfied with. But the way I was thinking about it is that if you understand how you learn and how you process information and what's your motivation, then you could actually streamline that even faster. So that's what I came. That's the what I came up with the learning profile. And then on the backside, I added a moral and ethical component, and then a Socratic questioning, which is the line of questioning that you can use to get understanding, like real understanding, free from biases, learning biases or fallacies and things like that. And then I added this framework called Bateson's levels of learning. So the levels go from 0 to 3. 0 is just basically no learning. You could recite what you were told, but it has no function. And then you could go to level 1. You might be able to organize that information or arrange it in a certain way. And then you could go to level 2, where once the information is arranged, you could be able to do some type of operation with it. And then level 3 is when you could take that and then do all of those other ones and then do new stuff with it, with that information, because you have the highest level of learning according to this framework. And then that's the whole learning profile. I figure once the parents or the learner understands those things, I mean, the sky's the limit after that. Once all you got to do is just decide on a goal.
So may I add to that, Ed?
Please.
So the classical trivium method is typically thought of in three stages: grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So this is where we gather information, make sense of that information, and then communicate that information out to others in your surroundings. Now we have a little bit of a memory game that we can play to understand how this process works, and that's the 5 W's plus how. So the 5 W's is who, what, when, where, why, and how. So when we're in the grammar stage, we're asking the who, the what, the when, and the where. And that's how we gather up the necessary information to begin to understand how all those components work together. That leads us to the logic stage, which is comprised of the why and the how. And then once we've been able to do all of that math, we are able to communicate our discovery out to others, which is the rhetoric stage. And so wisdom is knowledge put into action. So that's why we can have these interchangeable, well, maybe not interchangeable, but these different ways of explaining the three-step method. Trivium means three ways. Trivium, three ways. It's a threefold path of truth discovery. And so when we could break it down, so that's the classical grammar, logic, rhetoric. Then there's a more modern way of putting it, which is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And then there's even a more modern understanding, even more modern way that we could refer to it as input, processing, then output. So these are all basically the same steps. It's just different colloquialisms of how to refer to the trivium method. And from there, those are the first three of the 7 liberal arts. And then the quadrivium makes up the remaining 4 of the 7. And quadrivium is arithmetic, which is numbers. Then we have arithmetic, music, then geometry, and astrology. So we start with just numbers and how they work together. Then music is numbers in time. Then geometry is numbers in space, like physical space. And then astrology is numbers in the universe. So this is like, if we can have a combination of all 7 of those, then you've essentially brought yourself to a place where you're able to understand the world around you, free from any of the restrictions that others might impose upon you, and your consciousness has now been elevated to a point where you have achieved mental freedom in your consciousness, and then that brings into your body and the physical space that you inhabit and everything like that. And this is it's all about critical thinking, where you really just like diagnose problems, or you dissect situations and figure out different things that happen around you or in history. For instance, a lot of the research that people do, they use the trivium method, the first 3, the grammar, logic, and rhetoric, to gather up all the information that they need in order to understand what happened and who was there, how it happened.
Thank you. Exactly what he said.
I say that's terrific. I could add to that, because I've spent 50 years working on a version of that. My idea is logical, mathematical, and categorical. And it comes from Aristotle, who got it from way, way before that. But anyway, the 4 principles of Aristotle were the formal cause, the material cause, the efficient cause, and the final cause. And I changed it to more modern language and said, end, what you have in mind is abstract, and means is physical in general, physical materials that you can use to work with. When you have an end in mind, then you need to work with material in the real world. So that's the end and the means, physical means. And then there's another means, which is the action means, which is called the method. And that's where you have to apply your ability to put things together in the way that follows the form you have in mind. And if you do that right, you come up with a result. And so I worked with that since I was 30 years old. I'm now just about 79. So 50 years, and I have about 20,000 concepts or categories that are integrated and operate under that same principle. And that principle is holistic, and that it is all integrated into one whole operation, which can be an operating system of the whole globe and a global perspective. Everybody can contribute in their categories, doing these same 4 principles of action, thought and action. So that's I can relate to what you're saying. I think it's terrifically coherent, uh, and I applaud you for those efforts.
Well, Barry, that's a very astute observation and association to bring forward. The Aristotle is regarded widely as the person who put forward the trivium method, and as we understand it today. When you go back into the history books and you try to like figure out who's the dude that came up with the trivium method, well, people have agreed that it's Aristotle, and Pythagoras is the one who brought forward the quadrivium. So kudos to you, my dude.
I got
Pythagoras,
this quote from Aristotle. He says, happiness is self-sufficiency, the autonomy.
Pythagoras has the mathematics of this whole system because the a squared plus b squared equals c squared for the right triangle. That's the whole ball of wax in numbers from the universe all the way down to this most intricate subordinate category.
And that right triangle is used a lot in kind of a pictorial representation of like the trivium and quadrivium being the x axis and y axis, and
Right.
then the hypotenuse is the five senses, which is how we experience the real world and how we gather the information that we need in order to use the trivium method and the quadrivium. So we're on a roll, Mary.
Yeah,
Take it a little further
that's
and
what's up.
you put together the Pythagorean theorem to the nth degree, and then you end up with the Pascal triangle, which gives you thousands and thousands of octaves of harmonics, which make up the universe.
Mathematical universe, right? It's a mathematical universe.
Oh yeah, it's a harmonic. It's basically a harmonic universe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Man, I have such a big smile on my face this conversation. Thank you.
Ditto.
Hi, Anne.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm since we've been talking about the trivium and the quadrivium and all that, it makes me very happy just to hear it and to hear how people have embraced the practice of, what is it and how does it work? And it's pretty delightful and flowering and it's cool.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, Ann. This is a special community because when I leave here, I have to introduce people to the trivium. I have to, I, I, or matter of fact, I just made a page today for my website so that I could tell people like go there and get the breakdown because you know I ask people that's been in education all their life and they be like, what? No, never heard of it, never heard of it. And I'm like, that's too bad. It's just too I can't explain it to you. You got 30 years in the game. So, what are you gonna do with this information?
Well, yeah, well, I'm pretty old myself, so
But you're here though.
yeah, well, yes, true.
Right.
Talking about the harmonics, I made a model of the universe behind me. That's the harmonics in the plenum of the universe. We have a source in the center. We have two directions, northward and southward, up and down, mirror images of each other. That's the superposition of quantum physics. When that all comes down to the equator, we get the 5% of the entanglement of quantum physics, which makes us the substantiation of us manifest. We are divine beings who have been manifest into a physical body and activity. And so it all works very differently than what we're told. It works differently than a Big Bang theory that says we start from nothing and then it expands to the point that it becomes faded out into nothing. And that's really not very effective, and it doesn't give us any kind of a context, when actually what we do have in reality is a concentric, those are the circles inside of the circles, a conformal, doesn't matter what size it is, it's all the same form or structure at the smallest level to the high, to the biggest. And then it's cyclic because it keeps repeating from the source to the periphery back into the source. There's radiation and gravitation balancing itself out.
Barry, are you familiar with that the fella named Robert Edward Grant?
Oh yes, yes.
Oh yeah, he's onto that. He's into that stuff heavy too.
And Walter Russell and
Yeah,
Buckminster Fuller, Ed Witten, a whole bunch of people.
right.
But their ideas were kind of pushed aside, I think.
Well, everything popular is wrong. I keep telling myself that all the time. Everything popular is needs more explanation.
Yep.
Well, that's a nice way to frame it. It's just incomplete.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's incomplete, you know? Those who say they know the whole thing, and I want to take me to your leader. I want to see that. Show me. Show me. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm convinced this is a closed system. We got work to do. So we're all here together.
So how, maybe I shouldn't really ask it, but more ponder a bit more, using all this stuff.
Well,
What's
I
that?
say, now that you've said that much, that you should ask it.
You're committed.
Well, it's such a interesting time that we're in right now, I think, where the evil is pretty becoming more and more obvious. I mean, it's always been there, but it's just so much clearer. So it's there.
Hey, can I I'm gonna share some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
So these are crazy times, but when you're training an animal or you're trying to, or time is coming to an end, it's always going to be real extra hectic at that time, like we're in now. Like some things is always changing, but every once in a while you get lucky and get right in the heart of the change. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And
in the heart.
Excuse me?
In the heart.
Well, that's why I believe that these communities like this is going to help transition to what comes next. Because if you don't have a footing, if you're not trying to think about what's coming next, then when it gets here, it's too late. It's going to be too late. It's going to be a whirlwind. But if you trying to make moves and plan things accordingly, then it kind of slows it down, because when things start going fast, and that's when you could get out of control. So that's what I keep telling myself. As long as I stay focused and do what I got to do, God got this anyway. What are we doing here anyway, except for just riding the wave? So it's fun. It's exciting to me. I mean, it's just fun.
We're riding the wave and participating and guiding it also.
That's what you got to get up on that surfboard, right?
I think
that's the cool part.
We have a job to do. we're here on this earth, this planet, to do a job before we return to our home. Walter Russell is very clear about the idea polarities are necessary for motion. And if you don't have a polarity where one side is off balance from another side, then you can bring it down to the center where it is a fulcrum or the resting point. But if you keep neglecting to bring things in together and you let them get out of whack, so today we have a very messed up situation which is out of whack. People are very lost and very dangerous in certain ways. And I think we're being taught or told it's time for the good, God-fearing, spiritual people to get together to make a weight, a counterbalancing weight. And so as long as that's not happening, there is no unification of good, then you got to keep pushing the polarity to wake people up.
Um,
Yeah, I'm with that.
We
On
got to get
that note, may I?
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. On that note of balance, that we are all here and we all have a contribution. And we kind of came, or you came to a realization or a conclusion that, yes, it is heart. And Ed, if I may, there's an aspect of you that you haven't brought out. And I wonder if you would share that aspect of you, because it's certainly that part of you has not been demonstrated. And it's something about you that I really, truly honor. It's how you got your voice, how you came to your voice. And I think that particular aspect of you or situation contributed so greatly to who you are becoming. And as I've observed you, I can't, well, I admire you so greatly for your actions. And would you mind speaking a bit more about it? Because definitely for me, this is the key. It is the heart. And you have obviously connected to that, but yet you have not spoken about that tonight. And
Yeah.
I would appreciate your sharing that aspect of
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you. That is a major part of me is I don't know what you call it. It's like everybody, we all need family, you know. And so my family adopted my sister when she was 2. And so we grew up together. And well, I was 10 years older than her. And when I grew up and I went away to college, and she got lost, she became lost, and she was in a bad way. So, time went by, and she had a set of twins, and these twins, when they were born, they had a hard time, and she wasn't in the mind frame to do what she had to do to handle these children and to raise the children. And this was the time when I came home from North Carolina after they told me that they didn't have my teaching license. And when I came home, the situation was that these twins, boy and a girl, my niece and my nephew, was getting shuffled around from one house to the other, and not really being raised, but they were just being taken care of. And so when I came on the scene, my instinct was, come on, babies, get your stuff, get your stuff and let's go. And it was like no second thought for me to do what these children needed to be, what I thought needed to be done for them, which is to raise them, to show them that they have to be able to make their way into this world, or else, that polarity that Barry was talking about, you can get with this or you could get with that. And all the evidences that I've been showing them is for them. And it's kind of funny because they're like my practice dummies, but but I get to practice my techniques and my teaching strategy on
You get,
in-house children.
you get to practice love. That's what you
Yeah,
get to do.
yeah, but raising children, being in your face all the time, I gotta make, it's a test. I swear to goodness, it's a test because I had a dog and I told myself, this is it. This is the last thing I'm raising. And I still got the dog, but now I got a set of twins, and the dog's not the last thing I'm raising, but I'm full of joy for them, just having them a part of my life. And um uh, they make me who I am. They taught me who I am more than anything else that has ever, anything that I've gone through. They taught me so much about myself. And I tell them that all the time. I like, I'll be like, you remember when I used to go wild out on you? And they'd be like, yeah, I remember you used to do that. You ain't been. I'm like, yeah, because I wasn't the same person and back then. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful that you have had that experience because it's a beautiful combination of the skills you are developing and the programs that you are putting forward. And that is, I believe, the key component. It is the heart and the love that you obviously share with them. And it enriches, I think, anyone who will hear that or who will listen to the true value of your offering. It
Thank
comes
you, Renee.
from, yeah, it comes from not just the intellect. You have that. That's beautiful. And there's more. There's more. And
There's a quote that I always remember. It says that the greatest thing in the world is the heart of a child, and the
Mhm.
greatest tragedy in the world is the loss of the child heart.
Yes,
And we all have that child heart, though. So
there you
if
have it.
you, I don't care how old you are, if you lose that, that's the greatest tragedy in the world. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to get children and then young people and parents to say that, listen, if you don't love, if you love learning, I mean, you get the benefits. But if you don't, well, you will reap that wrath of not knowing because you got to pay the cost of not knowing stuff. Sooner or later, it's got to be paid. So the saying is live and learn. And it
How
goes
old are
together
the
like
boys now?
Jeanette, it's a boy and a girl, Janelle and Jesse. They are soon to be 12 years old in December.
All right.
And
Right.
when I came home, they were 3. And
Mm.
I'm dealing with this 11, almost 12-year-old girl who's talking about she don't got nothing to wear. She done changed clothes like 5 times today.
We're out. Hey, what's a girl to do?
You know what I mean? That's the stuff I'm into. So it's all good.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I thought, we were missing a big, important part of you.
Yeah, I think so too.
The learning is the light, but what moves us forward and carries us off into the great unknown is the love.
Mhm. Absolute truth.
I'm with that.
Hey, Ed, is Touchstone Learning a homeschool program?
It depends. I have the profile. The learning profile is designed for educators or homeschoolers to connect with their students, so they could use it. As a matter of fact, I have a couple of tentative presentations for this Catholic school. I talked to their principal, and she said she was very interested. She never heard of the Trivium, and I was like, "This is a Catholic school? You never heard of the Trivium?" So I said, "I got a program," and that's one. Uh, so I'm in the process of making this package. I got my commercial. I was going to show my commercial. Uh, can I show my commercial, Jay? I can send it to you. So
Yeah, you can show it. If you have it on deck already, don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait. You can, yeah, there's no reason why you can't show it.
All right, well, I'll do like this then. I'll send a request.
Request granted, sir.
All right.
While Ed's loading that up, I'd like to just extend a thank you to Renee for bringing up that question and getting that information into all of our ears, because that sounds like a very admirable thing that you're doing there, Ed. And not many men would take on such a task. So I'm going to keep my hat on, but it's off.
Okay, appreciate it. But like I said, that's what family's for. So here's the commercial I made, and you can see the screen.
You sharing audio?
Yeah, can you hear it?
No.
Okay, how do I share audio?
There's a box you click on the share screen page.
Okay,
as you're selecting the file that you want to share, there should be a box that you can tick off to.
Got you. All right, here we go.
Struggling with school? Feeling frustrated by a school system that limits your child's potential? You're not alone. At Touchstone Learning Solutions, we believe your child deserves so much more. Children deserve the opportunity to flourish and reach their full potential. For too long, students have been confined to a system that stifles creativity, critical thinking, and self-reliance. It's time for something better. The world needs thinkers, innovators, and leaders, and that's exactly what Touchstone Learning Solutions is here to develop. Our learning profile isn't just an assessment, it's a personalized roadmap for how your child learns, processes information, and solves problems. Our approach reveals their unique strengths, fostering growth through creativity, curiosity, and leadership. Traditional education is outdated. Don't let it limit your child's potential. Touchstone is your partner in unlocking their ability to succeed, not just in the classroom, but in life. Start with your free learning profile today. Click the link, enter your email, and begin your child's personalized learning journey. The future belongs to leaders. Let's get them there. Act now.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, man. That is
Awesome.
awesome.
Beautiful
Thank you.
colors too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all feedback, good or bad.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Right.
Pro
It's
media.
crisp. It's clean. It's concise. It's just drives it right home, dude.
Just says it.
Pro media. Hey, listen. I just did what I was told. I just did what I was told, and then start making excuses.
Ed, what is the age bracket that you are targeting?
The target is, there's no target, Renee.
Oh,
The target is for students who's having trouble. Okay, so friend of mine, his granddaughter's kind of young. She was like 7, and I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. That might be too young, but definitely eight and up. Because I think if you're 8 years old, then you understand about what you like to see, whether you like to hear stuff or how you like to do things. if you're a reader or a writer, you know that by about that time. And then that's when you can say, okay, if you're like to if you're an audio learner, then you could present information in a way, okay, here's some speeches, or here's something that you can use to stimulate your learning the way you like to get it and the way you take it the best. So
And
then
the
you have
upper,
to say again.
the upper limit or the max age wise.
Yeah, there's no age limit. There's no
Okay.
age limit to people like Ann said. I think it was Ann. She said she just got introduced to the trivium. But
Mhm.
if that's the case, then imagine if she understood about what type of learner, how her mind processes information. If she a what learner, or when you introduce the information, are you a why learner? Do you want to know how things work, or how they're put together? Or maybe you're a what if learner. You want to take the information and see what you could do with it. Then and then your motivations. What motivates you? You want are you do you seeking power so you can be in a position of power? Maybe you want to be a personal achievement. You set your own goals, or you want to be a part of a group or affiliated with some part of a group and make moves and do positive things within the group. And you know those three components, and then you add that to the trivium, and you move in at light speed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Certainly.
Nice system. Mhm.
Well, coming from you, you're talking about all these systems. All right, I'm gonna go with that.
I'm going to be putting together a class about the hierarchy of knowledge. It goes by fours. You have the concept knowledge, then you have the four primary categories of knowledge, which actually are human nature. And then from those are subordinated all the other concepts by fours all the way down. So
You gonna put together a class for that? You said?
yeah, that was my deal with Richard. He said, I'll trade you. He said, I'll trade you my 12-week course for your class to my community. So we made a deal.
All right.
Ed, is
So
there
let's.
is there a does your commercial feature your website, like the name? I got a message in the chat here from Ron. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what Ron has to say, and he'd like to come off mute and clarify. But
What's up, bro?
is there a link in your commercial? Like, does it
No,
advertise the link?
because no, I'll put the link right here. That commercial I made it to go on my landing page, and the link would be on the landing page. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But I just put the link to the website in the chat.
All right.
Hey Ed, it's Tim.
What's going on, my guy?
Hey, first I want to say good job on that. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the website, but from what I saw, I was kind of blown away. Hey, you
Yeah,
remember that time you spent with me way back in the season 11?
certainly.
You were helping me with my project, putting together a slideshow. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And you had this program called XMind. Are you still using that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. I just
I
wanted to
got it pulled up right. I got a bunch of mind maps pulled up right here.
now see that's what I like about you. You brought, even though I didn't know you from anywhere, we didn't know each other, but we kind of instinctively knew we were both working on something that's really important. And you were just so generous, and there's a side of you that Renee brought out that I was like, yeah, that sounds like the Ed I know. And I thought to myself, Yeah, the only thing I want to add to your website is I just had a great idea I want to share if you don't mind.
Please come with it.
There's another student, him and his wife's from Hawaii. They came up with this thing called test drive your education. I thought maybe you could just have that as a button called test drive my website. And because maybe they want to check it out and see, or maybe instead of calling it test drive, you could call it obstacle course or the
Okay.
Underwood or the I'm just brainstorming here. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you and with the rest of the class to let them know that, Ed's he's good at helping people. So way to go,
Thank
man.
you, Tim. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah.
How's your project coming along, by the way?
Actually, I started a whole new projects and I've got many projects going at once.
Yeah,
The big project is me right now. I'm working on myself. So
I'm with that. I like that one.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so in my program, as far as what you're talking about, so I have the free survey. I offer the survey for free on my website, or you go to the click the link, enter your email, and then you get a survey. And the survey is like 30 questions, and those 30 questions you answer them, and then I send you on my email campaign. You get information on how to read your scores. And then I have a example on the bottom of a hypothetical score from a student. And it says like this student is an audio learner and they learn they're an analytical thinker and they're motivated by achievement. And then I give you a little example of how you could help teach that child. And then I have in the email campaign, it's a video with a short introduction on the trivium. And then the next one is how you put them all together. And then after that, it's, do you want the full profile, or are you if you satisfied with that part, then I think that you should be good to go. But if you want more, then you could get the moral and ethical component, and then you could get the questioning, and then the levels of learning, if that's the full profile.
Wow, that's almost like, reading your city's water report. And they tell you all the nasty chemicals that are in it.
Yeah.
And they say, well, here's the legal limit of this chemical and that chemical.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, where's the fluoride? And there's no fluoride in it. Oh, yay. Does that mean it's good? No.
Yeah.
So it's like this time that we spent with our kids during COVID, because we didn't want to send them to school. And all of a sudden, we knew how important it was to homeschool. But some of the parents weren't getting a lot of support from their family members, and they felt really bad. So I was wondering, like on your website, maybe you could have a testimonial from that time period of, hey, yeah, I sent my kid. I instead of keeping him home, I let Ed take care of him for a week or two, and then how they changed. You could do like a, I don't know how close to reality this is. It's just an idea, bro. I'm just,
Yeah, I'm writing down. As a matter of fact, I have a few people that I reached out to for testimonials, and I just got to get back in touch with him so I can have a place to put them. So
because you got that whole Better Business Bureau 4-star, 5-star. A friend of mine has a car shop, and he was bragging about how, oh, I have a perfect score on Google and this and that. And I'm thinking, well, they don't really know you like I do.
yeah.
So I was just thinking, there's all these aspects that we have to try to tie to reality, which is kind of the struggle I'm having right now. It's kind of funny, but the I think the real important part is the love that you have for the kids, and that's what's missing in school.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
father is
man.
also missing, so we have to it's almost like we got a hell of a job to do. And it's like what James says, it took a lot of guts to do what you're doing, to take on what you're taking on. Because it's not just the one thing about the schooling it's the whole, hey, how can we remake the family, make the man strong again, be the man and implement the changes in the world we want to see, rather than what we've been given, which is that little chemical in the water that's turning men into not men.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like we instinctively know there's a lot of work to do, right?
If you don't, yeah, for sure. For sure.
But thanks
Like you
thanks for
said,
doing it.
it
It's like
starts
when
with
I saw,
yourself.
yeah, start with yourself. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for showing up for yourself and just producing this thing that actually, when it came to me and I saw it, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then I realized how important our mission is when I saw you, you showed up, you did it. And it's so inspiring. Actually, it's guys like you that make me want to keep on doing my projects and really get close to my why. This is why I'm doing it,
Hey Tim, you giving me goosebumps and making me blush at the same time, man. Hey, you can
Oh
be
yeah.
inspired, man, by anything I do, man, then God bless you. More
Yeah,
power to you.
it's because me and you kind of grew up in the same time frame, you know. We remember things in history because we were there, right?
Hmm.
And it's mainly that me and you kind of made those connections, and it was real beautiful, man. It's just everything Renee said is I almost cried in my Wheaties, man. It was too much.
Wow.
It was too much. But yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, just doing what you're doing. I agree with everything James said. Right on, man. I don't know what else to say, really.
Well, you said plenty, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I want to second the emotion and say, Ed, I appreciate and admire what you've done and who you are, and I'm so glad I wouldn't have given up the chance of having this opportunity to meet you for all the tea in China.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too, my man. How many seasons have you been in autonomy?
This is my first.
First one.
Okay, it's first season. Yeah, you in for a wild ride, my man. Yeah, yeah, that's what's up.
Well, all
Excited
right,
about tonight's lecture too.
Yeah, speaking of tonight's lecture, that's going to be kicking off in just over 30 minutes. We're going to be saying our goodbyes here at Autonomy Quest in about 5 minutes. So I would like to thank everybody for participating in the Q&A session, and everyone that didn't participate, thank you for your attendance. Ed, big thank you to you, man, for showing up for yourself and being an all-around awesome guest tonight. It's been just a wonderful evening spending time with you, dude. Seriously.
Likewise. Thank you.
And
Thank you for listening. Appreciate all of it.
Oh man, I'm so excited for the future for you. It's so I don't even know how to put it into words. It's just amazing. Thank you.
We'll make it happen, man. Ain't nothing to it but to do it.
F and A.
Yeah.
So at this time, I just want to keep with our little traditions here at Autonomy Quest and put into the chat all of the links that we've been providing each week. So to just kind of give a summary of those links, your blueprint strategy call, if there's anybody on the call that hasn't booked one of those yet and you're still on the fence, now's a great time to do that. you schedule your blueprint strategy call and figure out your path forward into autonomy. Our free gifts are the 19 Skills for Success PDF. And then we have the 3 mindset lectures that Richard has put on. A friendly reminder that Ed's website has also been provided via link in the chat. And you're welcome to explore those and save those links while we go over a couple of events that are going to be coming up. Of course, season 12 is kicking off tonight in about 30 minutes. And then that's lecture 1, and that takes place every Friday night, same time, same place. Tomorrow we have Do It Live that goes on every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then Saturday evening, Doc's Marvelous Mysterious Magnificent Grab Bag. And he's going to be presenting Get Shorty. And then Sunday we have the Autonomy Sunday Q&A. That's the Q&A. It takes place at 12 noon until around 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then throughout the week, there's plenty of stuff to go over and to get involved with as you're finding your way through either your first, second, third, fifth, whatever number of seasons of autonomy you have been through thus far. And then I thought I had something else in the chamber. And I'm going to think about it the second I click leave the meeting.
That's fine.
But yeah. Next week we have another autonomy quest coming up next Friday as well. So that's going to be the same time, same place. And I hope to see more of you there and keep an eye on your inboxes, because all the information about that will be coming your way the same way it did this previous week and the week before that and the week before that. So anyways, guys, it's been a wonderful evening. Ed, any final words, any final thoughts for the good people out there?
I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad to be classmates with you. I'm looking forward to the future. Like I said, ain't nothing to it but to do it. We're all in here together, so let's just get it done.
Amen.
Amen to that. All right, guys, we're
So
gonna
I
get
have-
out of here.
Can I
Enjoy
have
season. Go ahead, Ann. What do you got?
you call them the gifts?
Yep.
How do I get back to this?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, if you can open up your notepad real quick, I can let the meeting last for another minute so you can copy and paste all those links from the chat into your notepad.
The
That way you
links
have
are
them.
in the product. Like if you go back to Autonomy Quest, they're all in there.
Okay.
Thank you,
Go back.
Leah.
Cool.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Thanks.
All right.
Lee.
All right, guys. See you later.
So long, people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
job.
so much.
Thank you.